Disclaimer: the opinions in this video are supported by the best rumours and speculation that the internet can provide. Now, normally I'd steer clear of this kind of speculation, but as soon as public figures I respect get involved, I can't really keep out of it. Now, the first idea of replacing council tax with a new wealth-based tax has been on the cards for some time now. I personally feel that bringing private pensions under the umbrella of inheritance tax reduces the need for central government to make such a big and bold move around property, really. However, I do believe there is a genuine crisis at local council level, and this is going to require some holes to be plugged. Now, we've all seen local councils selling off assets to fund big gaps in their budgets. Whether Labour, Conservative or Reform-led, all councils are looking to sell off buildings and other assets locally. Now, while this is generally illegal, so many exemptions have been granted by central government due to the enormous levels of debt that local councils are struggling with. They've found it very difficult to continue reducing local services, so selling assets is one method of raising additional cash that doesn't attract as much local coverage as, say, closing a care service would. This leads me to believe that there may be some kind of a large change in the way that council tax is administered. And this is due to this crisis at local government level rather than a central government level issue. Now, central governments are always keen to introduce schemes for local tax raising that make it clear to the public that they need to speak to their local councillor rather than an MP in Whitehall. It's also worth noting that the current council tax bans were set in 1991 effectively by a couple of council officials driving around and viewing houses out the window and giving them an estimate of value. And this is clearly not a fair way to allocate local taxes. Now, the Roma mill is in two forms. Now, it's definitely been on fast spin this summer, and generally during the summer break, the rumour mill is driven by government departments that like to leak various reports about potential tax. And this is ahead of changes in the October statements, and this year's been no different. I believe they do this each year so that when changes do come into effect, there's less of a public shock. Now, they also release different versions to gauge the reaction of the media and the public. Now, this summer, there's been two big leaks, I think, around a potential change the way we pay for our properties. Now, option one is called the annual property tax. This first rumour is that if your house is worth more than £500,000, you will pay an annual tax of 0.54% on anything over that value. For example, if you own a house valued at £600,000, your annual charge will be 0.54% of the £100,000. If your house, however, was worth less than £500,000, you wouldn't pay this tax at all. And the idea would be that this would actually replace stamp duty. Now, I could imagine that this would actually be pretty popular up north, whilst in London and the south, it will certainly be less attractive. So what's the second rumour out there? Well, it's about capital gains tax on properties. Now, this second option suggests that you could pay capital gains tax on increases in the value of our houses. There's no real world examples where this has been implemented effectively. Countries that have tried something similar have given so many broad exemptions that very little tax is ever raised, and it just becomes a bureaucratic mess. There's also the risk that this would cause a decrease in the value of our houses generally, And obviously, as sales reduced and house prices went down, it's not going to help the government raise more taxes if the value of the properties are dropping. Now, whenever I cover these speculative type pieces, I do get a lot of comments saying that it's not worth paying any attention to this. You shouldn't be covering rumours. What we actually want to do is wait to see what happens in October. But who doesn't like listening to a bit of gossip? That can be entertaining as long as it's not too troubling. Ultimately, these rumours do point to a real problem, though. What do you think could happen with property taxes in the autumn statements? Let me know in the comments.